For the final time in Season 1, what happened in the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix weekend? Hello everybody, welcome back to XRS Plus, the official podcast for X Racing Series. It is the end of the season. It is the end of Season 1, and what a season we've had. The battles, the championships, and all have been unreal. XRS has taken off like an absolute rocket, and it's been an unbelievable thing to witness. So first and foremost, if you did all 16 races, if you just turned up for one, or if you did somewhere in between, thank you very much, because your attendance, your moves, your driving, you being there for us and with us has made the season how incredible it has been. So thank you very much for that. This is, just to clear it up, so everyone is sure to know, this is the rundown of the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix weekend, round 16. We will be having podcasts mid-season. I cannot wait to share them with you. Actually, let's start with that. So first of all, we've got this podcast. Then on, I believe on Sunday, as of recording it, it's Thursday today. This should be coming out on Thursday as well. And then on Sunday, there should be the first podcast. It'll be me and Raven back again, and it will be unreal. We are reacting to our Season 1 predictions. We will also be revealing the Season 2 calendar in its full glory. And let me tell you, it is beautiful. It is beautiful. Of course, if you didn't know, Season 2 is going to be a sprint season because we're closing into the end of this game cycle, closing into the end of F1 23 and moving on to the new game. It will be a sprint season, 8 races only. And I mean, if you consider how close this championship has been in a season with 16, 8 is going to be unbelievable. 8 is going to be unreal. So that's exactly what we're looking forward to. We have introduced this idea of having a normal size season and then also a sprint season as well. These are some of my favourites. I cannot wait for next season. It's going to be incredibly close. Can you imagine the amount of title fighters, the title contenders we're going to have in each division? It's going to be very interesting to see. But yes, that will be the podcast that comes out on Sunday. That will be the kind of the rundown of the previous season. We'll chat about everyone's performances. We'll chat about that kind of stuff. And of course, we'll be revealing the calendar. We are going to aim to do it live. We are going to aim to do the podcast live. We're going to announce that today. I'll tell you guys for the first time. Me and Raven are going to try and do that live on Sunday evening. If we are able to. We should be able to. But I've never done anything like that before. So I'm referring to him and what he knows how to do. I'm just going to be there and chat. You know what I mean? But hopefully we're going to be doing it live. It's going to be a very, very fun experience. So please do join us on Sunday evening. Time is unconfirmed, but it will be confirmed in an announcement between now and then. The second podcast that's going to come out is the one I'm really, really looking forward to, which is going to be our Season 2 predictions. Those videos for Season 1 popped off. And if you consider now, when we started Season 1, we had 80 members. Now going into Season 2, we have, 250 members? And also, so you'd think on that side of things, right, their predictions are going to be more accurate than they were last season because you know how good people are. However, you'd be completely wrong. It's a sprint season. If you have 1, 2, 3 bad races, that's it. You're out of the title fight. You know what I mean? Attendance is going to be incredibly important. If you imagine like 1 DNF in this season is going to count as pretty much 2 in a normal size season, it's half the size. It's going to be very, very important, very close. And if they were going to see any movements in the OCC and in the constructors themselves, this will be the season that does it. This and all the other following sprint seasons, if we hold another one, they'll be the ones that do it. So yes, hopefully you'll join us then. That video will come out at the very end of the transfer window because, of course, we need to know as many transfers as we can. As of recording this, it is 4 p.m. on Thursday. I've been very, very busy, and I would have recorded this earlier, but I have been swarmed in the DMs with signings. So far, I was pretty much an empty grid this morning. We are 4 hours into the transfer window, and pretty much every single seat is full. Unbelievable that the teams have jumped on it so far. I'm looking at the lineups. I'm not going to, unless I know it's a public knowledge, I'm not going to refer to many signings in this podcast because I don't know if they're public. I don't know if they want to be shared now. We'll talk about them in depth in the following podcast. But for now, we're not going to. Well, at least I will, but it'll be only if I'm sure that they're known and public and stuff. Anyway, before we get on to that, we're going to focus on the weekend we're talking about, Abu Dhabi. What a weekend. Not a favourite track for me. But still, some really good battles, really good races, and the first race of the weekend was the only title fighter left that was really, really on the questions. Who would win between Melvin and Blake? Which leads me on to my driver winner, which of course is Blake, the man who drove McLaren the entire season, and of course dipped into Red Bull to be the team principal for the final race. Of course, all of his credits and stuff has gone to McLaren as a McLaren drivers champion. Finished P2 in the race behind Kalik. Very, very good management. Probably had the pace to go for the win, but he was one penalty point away from a race ban, which equates to 40-second penalty, which would have lost him the title. So it was very, very good management from him to just stay behind, accept the P2, and take the championship. That's good for him. I have to give it to Blake. Really well managed. Started at the front of the race as well. Started in third. I mean, Melvin started in second, so he was really under the pressure considering he started behind his rival. Got him off the start and then never looked back. Fantastic. My driver loser has to be Melvin. For that reason, I mean, great job for him to getting into that position where he's fighting for the title. It was a 4-way fight, and then by the end of Abu Dhabi, it was a 2-way fight. I think he just got the strategy wrong. As in watching that race, he was behind Blake, and I think there was a couple cars in between. I think it was Cajun was there, Kalik was there, the two Ferraris were there as well. In that situation, you need to take a risk. As in, if you're not going for points anymore, you're just trying to beat Blake. You know what I mean? It doesn't really matter about points anymore. You need to focus on one man, which is Blake. You should have taken all the externalities out. What he needs to be focusing on right now, undercut. He should have gone in early and tried to undercut and just defend off Blake. Even if he had weaker tyres, just do something to attack Blake. No, he waited for Blake to go in, then waited more laps and then went in. He pitted so much too late. I don't know. The way he went into that race, I don't know what he expected to happen by doing that. Because to my memory, did he go onto softs? Did he go onto? I'm pretty sure he went onto mediums as well. He completely threw that away. I'm not going to say that he would have won the title, but that was so much more of a chance. I mean, pit early, undercut the cars ahead, because we know the undercut around Abu Dhabi is relatively strong. But at least he would have had a shot. He would have had a shot to, when Blake's coming out the pits, to maybe be closer to him. There were cars in between, and he wasn't able to clear them on pace. You need to find another way. You know what I mean? You have to. I understand you didn't have an engineer because Williams. I don't think that Williams have engineers often. You need to open your eyes, look at the bigger picture. Don't be so tunnel viewed. You know what I mean? You need to find a way. If you can't do it on pace, if you can't get past these people on pace, which is fair enough, they all had DRS. They was stuck in a big train. Find another way to get to Blake, because at this point he was 6 points behind the championship. Going into this race, I think it reduced to 5 or something because he got a front row. You need to throw something in there. You need to throw a spanner in the works. He needed to beat Blake on track, and pitting behind him. How was that ever going to work? You know what I mean? Because even if you had fresher tyres, even if you were on softs, you're still in the same situation in a DRS train out the back. So I don't know. I feel like he threw it away. But yeah, Melvin, a great job from him to get into that position, but he ended up finishing second in the championship and driver loser because I think he could have gone for it a bit more than he did. My team winner is Aston Martin. Cajun pulling out a big pole. I think Cajun's overlooked. I think that he has a shot for the title next season. I think it's going to be tricky because there's a lot of big names in that division, especially with Bays and Five Wires coming down. But nevertheless, I think that he does have a shot. Good batch of points. Another podium on the bag for Aston Martin. Walker as well. Walker's one of them ones that has potential. We haven't really seen him cut through, be up at the front. We saw him briefly up at the front a couple of races, but I'm yet to see something huge from Walker. He has been re-signed. I will talk about that one. He has been re-signed, so it's good for money for Aston Martin. I'm looking for a big season 2 from Walker. I'm looking to see him develop and maybe be a bit more patient on his moves. Maybe use some of the drivers in Aston Martin to improve himself, to get some training. I mean, if you look at Aston Martin, I won't go into like I said, I won't go into the transfers. What they've gone for a very, very aggressive season 2 instead of saving up their money, which isn't a bad thing. But it's interesting, especially with the budgets. We're starting to see different strategies come through with different team principals, what they're aiming to do. Aston Martin have gone very aggressive. They've gone for signed big drivers and go for a big position now. They haven't gone for conservative, defensive, save some money and go for it later on. They're going for it now, and I think that's a good idea. I think that's a good idea because it's a sprint season, so if you can hook it up, you can become a midfield team automatically. The bad problem is they're going to be in debt, and if the drivers don't perform well, then you're in debt and have bad drivers. So Walker, this is where I need to see Walker do some good performances. He qualified 12th, finished 11th. I'm looking for him to be in the top 10 on the majority of races next season because there's a lot of potential there. He's definitely improved. We've seen the improvements from him across the season, and I think he can learn a lot from the drivers they're bringing in to the rest of the team, who I know are some of them. Some of them are often faces in the league. You know what I mean? That are very active in the league. Learn something from them. And I think Aston Martin will become a threat to reckon with in Div 4. My team loser, 100% Alfa Romeo. How has this happened? So it was a solid race from Alfa Romeo, 100%. Vlad finished P5. Breezy finished P10 after an incredible wheel-to-wheel by Toxic. By the way, Toxic, unbelievable. Another driver who's got a lot of potential. Who's pushing up the order. But anyway, solid race by both of the Alfa Romeos. However, the bad news came after the race. No, it wasn't penalties. It was not penalties. It was a penalty, I suppose, but not in the stewards report. In transfer announcements, yesterday morning, or yesterday evening, whatever it was, there was a message that said Ferrari and... actually, no, I'm going to get it right. Ferrari and Alfa Romeo got themselves a league penalty for breaking rules. How has this happened? And how is it Ferrari that's involved in this as well? I'm going to have to scroll up loads because of the amount of signings. Because I want to find this. Very burpy as well. My grandparents are over and so I'm eating a lot of Indian food. I'm very burpy. Here we go. Rule violation. The offenders, Ferrari and Alfa Romeo. The reason, transferring Vlad for less than the allowed amount. Of course, if you don't know, when you're transferring drivers, so buying a driver from another team, the minimum you can buy them for is 90% of their value, so 10% off. The maximum is unlimited. You can go as high as you want. However, Ferrari and Alfa Romeo, silly mistake. And I appreciate the penalty. I lessened the penalty because I made the mistake as well. This is mid-season when Vlad was bought from Ferrari to Alfa Romeo. If you remember that, of course, he was bought for 80%, not 90%. That has caused them to get a penalty. 25 points in both of their Division 4 standings, which of course equates to the OCC as well, which didn't change any positions, but it's okay. And 15 million in the budget. Now, for those two teams, 15 million isn't a big deal, because they're both quite rich teams at this point. The problem came to the standings because it didn't do much for Ferrari, but Alfa Romeo lost the position to Haas in the Constructors' Championship, which eventually cost them more money. 100% driver loser. I mean, I hold my hands up. I made a mistake and shouldn't have let it through. I should have noticed it. I don't know why I didn't, but they should have done it as well. You know what I mean? As a team principal, there's only 10 in the league. I expect you to be coming to me when you're sending these contracts to me, when you're sending these kind of things to me. Yes, fair enough. I will proof check them. That's my job. I'll proof check them. I'll do my best to make sure they're legal and their stuff. But I'm not expecting you to just come through with anything. You know what I mean? I expect you to have proof checked it yourself as well. So that's why the blame, I believe, is on me as much as it is Ferrari, as much as it is Alfa Romeo. Hence the penalty. I can't give myself a penalty. I'm not going to do that, obviously, but there is a penalty for those two teams. Didn't cost Ferrari that much in the grand scheme of things. Alfa Romeo, I think it was a bit of a slap on the back of the neck, especially considering how well Breezy's driven this season and how maturely Vlad's improved after quite a difficult first half. Alfa Romeo ended up finishing 5th in the Constructors' Championships as opposed to 4th in the Division 4 standings. It is what it is. It really is what it is. There's not much to say about that. It's just unfortunate. And a silly mistake, but a silly mistake that I'm sure they won't be happening again. Moving on to Division 3. A race where there was 3 teams on the running for the Constructors' Championships. We're going to start with my team winner, which of course is Alfa Romeo. Unbelievable drive by the both of them. Pink securing not only his first podium of the season, but also his first win of the season as well. From 10th on the grid, he got knocked back to last with me in going into turn 1. Just chaos into turn 1 on the exit of turn 1 in Abu Dhabi, as you know. And then Pink made it back up. I mean, I made it back up as well. I made a silly mistake, but he was able to cut through, and he's a mature driver. He's a very good driver, and he ended up winning the race. Unbelievable by him. MCL, he forgot his setup after the red flag. Still managed to make it up to P4. Solid performances by the both of them. Pink's 100% my driver winner. Alpha is my team winner, winning the Constructors after being 3rd going into the weekend. Fair play. My driver loser 100% is Tycho. That was one of the worst races I've ever seen from Tycho. If you don't know the rule, right? So there's a certain amount of penalty points you get for race bans and quali bans. So 9 penalty points is your first quali ban. 12 is a race ban, 15 is another quali ban, 18 is another race ban, and then 21 is a season ban. Of course, if in the final round of the season, you can't serve a quali or race ban in the next race, can you? Because there's no more next races. So instead of making it go over to the next season, we equate them. So a quali ban changes to 20 seconds of penalties, and a race ban changes to 40 seconds of penalties, and a season ban changes to a DSQ. Tycho, I don't like to use the word terrorist, but I really can't think of another word to describe what he did. I have never seen a driver drive so poorly as Tycho did, diving every corner. And it's not even like I can say, oh well, he just ruined my race, because he didn't. I mean, he slowed me up a bit, but he didn't. And I was in the middle, the back, and the front in that race. I qualified 7th, I think. Got knocked down to last into turn 1, and then made my way up, as in piece by piece. So I raced him for a solid margin when I was in the middle. The amount of dives I saw him do, not just on me, but on other people. I can't remember who it was. I think it was Big B. So see, going in, so you know, so there's 2 straights, right? Straight, chicane, straight, the big left-hander, and then you go right, and then go into that first right-hander of like the twisty final sector. There, he was diving from years back. I saw him clipping people from miles back. I'm like, it's not gonna work. As in, I don't know, right? I'm not really a divey person, right? As you know, as people who know my style, I'm not really a divey person. I don't really chuck my car into situations. My question is, for people like Tycho, what are you imagining is going to happen? As in, do you think that they're just going to move out of the way and it's going to be a really cool dive? As in, what are you aiming for? As in, do you just completely move away from the situation that maybe they won't see you coming and you'll just torpedo into them? Or are you imagining you're going to get a really cool TikTok clip of your onboard as they back out of the move because you've gone so deep? I would love to know what Tycho was thinking going into these dives. He also, I think he crashed into 5-wires in qualifying, but I don't think that's his fault. But anyway, Tycho got enough. I mean, I didn't even penalise Tycho for a terrible rejoin in qualifying, which got in my way because I forgot to. That would have been an extra 3 penalty points. Tycho managed to get a race and a quali ban. I think it would have been a season ban as well if I'd penalised him. That's 60 seconds of penalties, and it would have been a DSQ on its own anyway. What? Huh? Tycho was so... in the previous league before XRS, Tycho was so dangerous. And up until now, he was alright. He wasn't great. He was alright. He got by. He wasn't his standard dangerous. This race, he just went back to old Tycho, and it is upsetting to see because there's potential in that driver, and I've seen it and said it so many times, and he's thrown it away. 100% driver loser. How many penalty points are you collecting? You're collecting them like Pokemon. Team loser actually is just gonna follow off from that. My team loser is Haas, and I think it's more of a fundamental reason why my team loser is Haas. Not just because they scored 0 points because they actually scored 1 point because Tycho didn't get the season ban, so finished 15th. They scored 1 point, but I mean, ever since Ben left Team Principal when he got banned and Asteroids come in, while what he's done is very strong, his weak division's always been Div 3, and I hope that doesn't hold him back going into the new season. I've heard rumours of who he's going to sign. As I'm recording this, he's already signed one of them, and I believe I know who the other one is. I don't know. I hope there's an improvement there because that is definitely his weak point. And I think that Team Principals, especially when you're... I mean, actually, not even especially when you're at the front. Anywhere. Any position you're in. I mean, maybe it's especially when you're at the front because you're aiming for more. But any team needs to be realising where their weak points are. So one thing I saw, for example, from AlphaTauri in Season 1, when they were in the fight with Alfa Romeo and they signed Rosman and Boomboy, why? As in, not to say that they're bad drivers, because both of them are good on their day. But your weak point was Div 4. Div 4, Clemac was usually DNFing anyway, but occasionally finished at the back of the points. And Ristomo just didn't understand the racing rules. Constant resetting the track, constant, unsafe rejoins. These kind of silly things that are basic racing rules. Why you? I mean, who was in there Div 2 before that? God, I can't remember. Oh, of course, it was Zinx and Gone to the Moon, wasn't it? So I mean, I guess they're fair enough. Their hands were tied. They had to put someone in that division. So fair enough. But your weak point was Div 4, and I don't understand. I mean, they finished 9th in Division 4 because Aston Martin beat them in the final round after Cajun's pole and podium. It's not to say that they would have beaten Alfa Romeo because the gap was pretty big by the end. Alfa Romeo cooked in the second half, but I think they would have had a better shot. And I think that you can see that in Haas as well. Haas are a team that's probably going to be aiming for somewhere in the top 5, maybe top 3 if they can really hook it up in the OCC next season. They need to find their weak spots. Their weak spot last season was Div 3, They need to make sure that's not an issue this season. They need to patch that hole ASAP before it starts to sink their boat. You know what I mean? It's going to be very, very important for them. But I hope it works out for them. But yeah, my Division 3 team loser is Haas. Not just because of this season where Tycho was a terrorist and no one else was in the other seat, but also because didn't really have anyone in that seat at the first place. Div 3 was always quite quiet from Haas. Moving on to the Saturday race. Unfortunately, I was unable to watch this race. I'm very upset about that. For the majority, I watched pretty much every race of the season, but there is one every once in a while I have to miss one. So I had to watch the stream back, have a look at the highlights to see who I think deserves it. Driver winner, Ronan Keane, and I've said this since the start, since he dominated in Portugal. Ronan Keane is a future champion. I don't think he'll be able to do it in Mercedes. Maybe with Squig as team principal, he might be able to do it in Mercedes. But I know where he's going, because it doesn't matter anyway. If he goes to a good team that can support him, I think that Ronan Keane would win the championship next season. What a drive, from pole to win. Not much more to say, other than an incredible drive. And he's a driver to look out for. I'd be amazed if he hasn't got many offers in the DMs, because unbelievable job once again. My driver loser though is going to go to Boomboy, and this one is a this one's a bit of a. This isn't one I enjoy giving. I don't enjoy giving him driver loser. Yeah, I don't know what happened. Last lap he was on the running for, I believe, a P2. I think he had a 3-second penalty. Assuming that wasn't going to get removed, he was on for a P2. Another good result, exactly the same as Singapore and the race before that, and the race before that. And yeah, just I think a little bit of oversteer, and I guess I think it was Chocolate who was behind him, didn't see it coming, and tapped the back of him into the wall. Not Chocolate's fault. From my view, it looked like it was Boomboy's fault, but I mean, you can't really put a fault on that. It just happened. It is what it is. It was like a similar incident he had in Kota with Asteroid, where he just oversteered and clipped him. But it's so jarring for Boomboy, because he's had so many. He's been in a situation where he's going to get a good result, and he hasn't been able to pull through. I don't know whether he's staying in AlphaTauri next season. As of recording this, he is contracted to AlphaTauri. Whether someone buys him out, I don't know. I hope he finds something next season, because I think that he had such a fire start of the season. You know what I mean? Qualified third in Bahrain. Of course, collided with Koi. He had the rivalries of the drivers up at the front. And I think I hope AlphaTauri haven't just shut off Rosman and Boomboy because they've had a poor season when they signed them. Yes, fair enough, they were in smaller teams, the pressure wasn't on as much like that. But I think there's potential in both of them, especially Boomboy. He's been up the front every single race since he started with the quali ban, and has made like a silly mistake, or just something's happened, some kind of extra things happened, just caused him to drop down to the back. That has happened exactly the same in this race. I'm looking forward to Boomboy next season. Do I think he's going to win the title? No. I think he could probably scrap for a couple podiums. I think AlphaTauri should work with him. I think he's a driver for the future kind of situation here. The standard of Div 2 is really cooking up. I mean, he's got the pace to fight for it. But these little mistakes, if you can iron out those little mistakes, which is not an uncommon thing for drivers to have, having little snaps of oversteer, having little situations, you know what I mean? And also, we'll be able to actually see him qualify again, instead of serving this penalty from Kota Gate. Finally, we'll see him qualify, and we know he's got really strong quali pace. He was up at the front in China, he's up at the front in Bahrain, and in so many other places as well this season. So, yes, I've got my fingers crossed that AlphaTauri don't drop him, because I think there's a lot of potential there. And as of right now, they haven't. But Boomboy for sure is my driver loser for this race. My team winner, Haas, 100%. Chocolate, a little bit sneaky from him. Broke his wing in that crash with Boomboy and didn't let the Asteroid through. He got penalty anyway, which dropped him to 4th. But nevertheless, it would have been a 2-3 for Haas. Changed to a 2-4. Fair. I don't think Asteroid cares in the long scheme of things. I mean, Chocolate, again, I'm going to say, as of recording this, Chocolate has been signed by a team. It's not Haas. I won't say who it is in case it's not announced. Which I think is announced, but I won't say in case it's not. Chocolate has been signed. It's not by Haas. Asteroid probably doesn't care that Chocolate held him up, because he ended up getting a penalty anyway. What he cares about is the fact that Chocolate qualified 3rd, finished 4th, good points for Haas. That probably gave them a bit of hope to catch up with AlphaTauri in the OCC, but of course Reese was yet to drive, so it was never really going to work. But yes, Haas, again, driver for the future. Asteroid's been pulling his weight. actually, in first. Actually, I want to... Let's do an in-depth dive. Because to my memory, Asteroid hasn't done too many races. He keeps talking about it as well. So Asteroid, this season, DNF'd in China, 7th in Portugal, DNF'd in Spain. Poor start. Then he started cooking. Got 5th in Austria, got 7th in Silverstone, and it definitely could have been higher if he wasn't stupid. Then Kota, he won, which is a bit controversial, but he still won it. Singapore, P2, Abu Dhabi, P2. There's a driver inside of Asteroid, and if he's able to hook it up, I don't know if he's going on wheel permanently next season. If he's going on wheel permanently next season, it's going to be different, because he has another issue to deal with, which is spinning himself, as opposed to crashing with other people. I think Asteroid could have a shot at the title. Maybe. Might be in the same boat as... I think he's in the same boat as Boom Boy. I think he'd be fine for those podiums, occasionally maybe go for a win, same as Boom Boy. If he's able to, again, iron out those mistakes that he has, the spins, or the little incidents. I mean, an incident cost him a really good position in Silverstone. Then I believe he'll be a very strong candidate for the front of Div 2. Don't forget, 8 races. If you just do well in the first few, you know, you're fighting for it automatically. You know what I mean? He's not signed his teammate. I know who it is. You probably know who it is as well. Again, won't talk about it in case it's not. But who I think it is, good teammate. Haas could have a really strong lineup in Division 2. They could definitely go for constructors, I do believe. It's going to take a lot to beat Ferrari. It's going to take a lot to beat McLaren. I think it's going to take a lot to beat Mercedes as well. It seems like I've got quite a strong one too. We'll see. But for now, Haas, very good performance from their race. McLaren, short one from them. Actually, I've just closed the results for me. But McLaren, at this point, McLaren were literally on the cusp of catching Alfa Romeo in the OCC. They were on top of each other that entire weekend. Alfa Romeo had a solid Div 4 and Div 3. So this is where McLaren needed to pull back. Of course, they weren't going to score from Teshubi because they didn't have the reserve count to do so. So they needed a good Division 2 race. They needed to outscore Alfa Romeo. Dodo and Suzuki in Alfa Romeo finished 3 and 6, and Mattia finished 8th, and there was no other driver in a McLaren, and that kind of just shut off the chances of them finishing 2nd. But still, 3rd in the OCC, very strong. But yeah, for the fact that they had no chance after that race, McLaren are my team loser, I should say. And then we move on to Division 1, and I will say, by the way, what a way to end the season. What an incredible battle up at the front. We had Tonio, Tixi, Reese, Jay Snowy, Teshubi. Banjo was sneaking up there as well. Raven was sneaking up there as well. Atom was in that fight. Power was in that fight. And Nebs kind of snuck into that. Sleek was in it at one point as well. Div 1. And you know what it is? And this is something that not many leagues can say. Where their Div 1, or their highest division, the highest tier, might actually have the best title fight. Because they're going to be on top of each other. We have got so many fast drivers here. I mean, I don't even know who's going to win between Teshubi and Reese. Not even including Tano, Tixi, Tonio, Atom, Raven, Pau. There's so many names in this division. It's actually ridiculous. My driver winner, it has to be Jay Snowy. Statistically, 17th to 3rd, fine. Fair play. I'm pretty sure he's going to get signed by Haas. Yeah, he's pretty much confirmed as of recording this. Fair play. Jay Snowy, unreal. Big improvements. I didn't see him do much, but again, I only watched the end of that race. Yeah, solid performance from him. He is certainly a driver who's on the faster end of things. He's going to be up at the front, I think, next season as well. And I hope he has a teammate to help him go for constructors as well, because it's going to be an incredibly competitive division next season. My driver loser is Sleek. Qualified 2nd, finished 12th after getting rear-ended by, I believe it was Tixi, but it might have been Tonio. Yeah, really unfortunate by him. He's clearly got the pace. He should get a seat next season because he's qualifying 2nd in your first race against the caliber of people in this league. Unreal. So, Sleek mover, good race, ended badly. My team winner, Red Bull, Banjo. Remote Banjo, where did you come from? Banjo pulling out an unbelievable result there. Qualifying 14th, finishing 5th after the penalties. Neb qualifying 9th, finishing 10th after a little bit difficult race for him. That has allowed Red Bull to jump Alfa Romeo in the standings and constructors, getting them 4th instead of 5th. And just extra points. Just extra points, which means extra money for this season. Red Bull are arguably fighting being a back marker team, trying to hold into the midfield. I think they'll be able to do it. Blake's clearly a very driven team principal, so I think they will be able to do it. Those extra points are going to help them for sure. Alfa Romeo definitely pulled back by the fact that Alfie got a race ban and Ziagli got quite a few 3-second penalties just randomly. 3-second penalties. But yeah, fair play to Banjo. Actually finishing on equal points to Alfie and 1 point behind Ziagli. So, I mean, he could have finished 5th in the championship as easily as he finished 7th, which he did. So, yes, incredible job by Banjo and Neb across the season. The teamwork they've showed is very inspiring for other drivers. And also the fact that their results have been very strong as well. Team winner for sure. Team loser, I have to rub it in, McLaren. Teshubi qualified 3rd, finished 4th in the McLaren, but they didn't have the reserve count to do it, so they didn't get any points for him. And Cintium, DNF. I will put money on the fact that they signed Teshubi next season, but he's 100 million, so it's going to be a big chunk of their money. Cintium is signed for a 2-season contract, so he's still there. How are they feeling? How are they going to take this into the next season? Cintium is looking like a solid midfield driver. Excuse me, Teshubi is going to be going for the title for sure. I mean, team loser because it's completely confirmed that they were finishing behind Alfa Romeo in the OCC. Will it be different next season? You have to wait and see my predictions, but I do believe that McLaren are going to have a very, very strong lineup next season if it works out for them. What actually they've done, if I want to talk about it quickly now, I'll talk about it in more depth again, like I said, on the other podcast. Interestingly enough, to what McLaren have done is McLaren ended the last season on like 150 mil, and Williams, their sister team, which again I'll go into more depth a bit more critically in the later podcast. Williams ended the season on like 300 mil. Now what I'm thinking, because what they've done is they've got their prize money and added it to the amount of money they had already. They both had, I think, more money than Ferrari, who won the OCC. This has enabled them to get a very expensive lineup, or at least to have the flexibility to get an expensive lineup. As of recording this, McLaren have all seats filled bar a Div 4. Williams have still every division 1 seat to fill bar Div 2. And I don't know. It's going to be very interesting because I think that money's a big thing, especially in the big seasons. In a sprint season like this, it's mainly going to be who has the best lineup, who's going to react straight away. You've got 8 races to get good results, do it. And I feel like that's definitely the approach that Aston Martin has gone for. McLaren and Williams, I'm yet to decide, because in fairness, McLaren already had quite a good lineup anyway. They've gone for Teshubi. They're going to bring in Skiz, I imagine. Their Div 4 is open bucket, fully open, because they have the money to do to sign anyone. And of course, Liam and Blake have gone up. I think, and this might change when I do the predictions, so I'm saying it slowly to build up the tension, because I think that it might change. My opinions might change to when we do our Season 2 predictions, which is going to be in another week, you know what I mean? I think that if any team is going to beat Ferrari, if any team is going to beat Ferrari, it'll be in a sprint season. Because in a long season, when Raven's cooking long term, I mean, if you think about last season, the second half, Ferrari are breezing. As in, the effort that Raven needed to put in for the team as an overview was minimal, because he was going to win it by miles. And he did win it by miles, you know what I mean? Whereas this season, where it's 8 races, the pressure's on from start to finish. If any team is going to beat Ferrari in the OCC, it'll be now, in a sprint season, and I think it might be McLaren. If they can sign the right people and they play this right. Because they've got the money to do it. They've got the flexibility to do it. All they need now is the drivers to do it. And it'd be interesting to see the foundation that KD can give the team as his first full season as a TP. But I'll go into more detail on that when all the signings are complete. Obviously, I don't know what their lineup's going to be fully. I have an idea of who a few of them are going to be. I have, of course, a few of them are signed at the time of recording. But it'd be very interesting to see when we get to that point who will have the best lineup. Because I think there's a lot of teams that are aiming to be front runners. Of course, we had AlphaTauri, Haas, and Alfa Romeo. Someone has to drop down. Someone has to become a midfield team. You can't have front runners as being the half of the grid. You know what I mean? Of course, Mercedes and Red Bull, new team principals. They seem like they've got a very solid foot down on how this is going to go. Williams, Alpine, Aston Martin, all gone for very different strategies. Alpine look, they're going quite conservative, building up the consistency of the team by signing solid drivers, not championship winners. They're signing solid drivers that have the consistency. It's all about points for them. It's not just get 25 points in a race. It's about getting 7, 8, 9 points in a race, but do it again and again and again. Consistency, that's what we like to see. Williams' strategy, Williams' strategy can't even count as a strategy, because there's very rarely a situation where a team will have this much money and be a backmarking team. So I don't really know. They have the flexibility to do whatever they want, really. Aston Martin, of course, going very aggressive, opposite to Alpine, and signing top drivers now and going for it now, which it could definitely work. It's smart that Cajuns gone for it in a sprint season as opposed to in a normal season. On a normal season, if it backfires and you just fall back, then you're in trouble. In a sprint season, at least it's recoverable, because it's a short season. So if you're going to see movements in the OCC, we'll see it now as opposed to a long season. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, please do join me on Sunday night for the first of 2 podcasts of the mid-season break. The second one will be unconfirmed date, I will say right now, but it will be talking about the season 2 predictions. I cannot wait to predict where I think everyone will be finishing. If you remember, season 1 video was one of the favourites, so I'm very excited to do it again. So I look forward to joining you then. See you soon.